Have you ever felt so angry that you couldn't control it? Someone says something unreasonable, does something unjust, in an instant, your anger surges. But imagine for a moment, what if you no longer let those things affect you? What if you could stay absolutely calm, no matter what others say or do? Jordan Peterson offers a powerful perspective on this, and understanding it could completely change the way you manage your emotions. Let's dive into how you can reach a point where nothing and no one can disturb your peace or make you angry again. First, let's not misunderstand this situation. Anger in itself is not inherently bad. It's a signal from our nervous system, triggered for a reason. When used correctly, it can be a powerful tool to assert boundaries, protect oneself or others from injustice. However, it's crucial to distinguish between a reasonable reaction and a state of constantly being bothered by the world around you. There are many people who walk around with a scowl on their faces, filled with frustration, yet have no clear reason why. They make things worse by believing that their anger is caused by external factors, as if they are mere puppets with no control, manipulated by others. This mindset is extremely dangerous. Why is that? Because when you believe that your emotions are completely controlled by others, you essentially make yourself a perpetual victim. And Jordan Peterson wants to tell you that there's something even more dangerous than seeing yourself as a helpless victim. That's why we need to talk about mastering our emotions and our reactions. Imagine you're driving down the road and someone cuts in front of you unexpectedly. How would you react? Most people would feel irritated. They might curse, honk their horn loudly, and worse. They'll carry that frustration into their next conversation at work or at home. You see, a small event, completely out of your control, can completely dominate your emotional state. Do you think that's worth it? Instead of rushing to react, take a brief pause. As Jordan Peterson advises, give yourself a moment to remind yourself that there's always another choice. This is the key to success. You have the power to decide whether this moment will control your emotions or not. You can choose how to perceive it and continue walking forward without letting it bring you down. However, mastering emotional control doesn't happen overnight. It requires practice, awareness, and most importantly, consistent effort. Every time you face a situation that makes you uncomfortable, ask yourself, is this really worth me feeling upset? More often than not, the answer will be a resounding no. Why does this matter so much? Because anger and frustration are incredibly costly emotions. They steal your peace of mind, wasting your time as you dwell on a situation that should have passed. You replay the scenario in your head, imagining confrontations that will never happen. And the worst part, they cloud your clarity. When you're angry, you don't think clearly. You react instinctively, and it's during those moments that people tend to make their worst decisions. So, what does mastering your reactions look like in practice? It begins with cultivating self-awareness, paying attention to what causes you to lose control. Is it a certain tone of voice that makes you feel dismissed or disrespected? Is it an unintended action from someone else that triggers your anger? Whatever it may be, recognize it. When you become aware of what makes you lose control, you create a space between being provoked and how you choose to respond. It is in that moment that you have the power to decide how to react, instead of simply responding instinctively. Jordan Peterson emphasizes an important point. Don't take everything personally. He acknowledges that this is easier said than done, because as social creatures, we're deeply concerned with how others perceive us. This is not inherently bad. It helps us navigate social situations and maintain relationships. But if someone constantly interprets others' actions and words as judgments of their own worth, they will bring upon themselves a great deal of unnecessary suffering. Peterson provides a specific example. Imagine an employee is criticized by their boss during a meeting for their work performance. The initial reaction from many people is to feel hurt, even offended. They'll go home, replay the situation in their minds. Why did he say that? He didn't appreciate what I've done. And before long, a simple critique can ruin their whole day or even their entire week. According to Peterson, you need to realize that, most of the time, other people's behavior is not a reflection of you, but of them. Maybe the boss is under pressure because a project deadline is looming, or perhaps they're dealing with personal issues unrelated to you. Or simply, maybe the boss just isn't good with words. You must understand that a critique doesn't fully define your worth. Even if the criticism is valid, you need to separate the message from the way it's delivered. Peterson advises everyone to ask themselves, is there something I can learn from this critique? If the answer is yes, then great. Use it as an opportunity to improve. If the answer is no, let it go. Don't carry it as an emotional burden throughout your day. According to him, each person has the right to choose what is worth paying attention to and what should be let go. Don't let someone else's negative thoughts take over your mind. Jordan Peterson points out an important truth. Many people project their own insecurities onto others. If someone is always trying to make you feel inferior or put you down, the issue lies with them, not you. They feel inadequate and are trying to pull you down so that they can feel better about themselves. But remember, you don't have to play along with their game. Peterson advises that the best way to break free from this negative spiral is to develop what he calls psychological distance. This means stepping back from the situation and observing it from an objective perspective, as if you were an outsider. Instead of thinking, why is this person doing this to me? Ask yourself, what is happening in their world that makes them act this way? This shift in perspective can lead to amazing results, as it reminds you that others' behaviors are not a reflection of you, but a reflection of them. Ultimately, Peterson emphasizes one thing. When you stop taking everything personally, you gain control over yourself. You no longer become a puppet controlled by the opinions or actions of others. Instead, you become the master of your emotional state, and that's a freedom worth striving for. One thing many people never truly understand, yet is key to maintaining calm and strength even in chaotic times, is developing emotional immunity. Peterson defines emotional immunity as the ability to endure uncomfortable emotions, criticism, disappointment, in the moments of unfairness that life will inevitably throw at you. Let's be clear about one thing. Life will undoubtedly challenge you. People will talk behind your back. They will misunderstand your intentions. They will intentionally undermine your work. Sometimes, they will offend you without reason. This is unavoidable. The important question is, what will you do in the face of it? Will you crumble every time someone says something unpleasant, or will you learn to become the kind of person who isn't easily knocked down by meaningless things? The first thing I want you to understand is that being overly sensitive to every criticism is not a virtue. It's a trap that keeps you emotionally fragile and easily manipulated. We live in a time where many people believe that showing deep hurt over every negative remark will earn them sympathy and validation. But the truth is, life doesn't adjust itself to protect your feelings, and the world won't soften its edges just because you struggle to handle discomfort. If you let every criticism shake you, you give away your power, allowing others to dictate your emotions. The harsh reality is this. The more easily you're offended, the easier you are to control. Strength comes not from avoiding criticism, but from developing the resilience to face it without losing your sense of self. Why? Because if you are always fragile, you will become a victim of circumstances. You will unintentionally hand over control of your emotions, the very thing you should be deciding yourself, to everyone you meet. And that means you're giving others the power to decide the course of your life. So, how do you develop emotional immunity? First, you have to realize that you are the one who decides your emotions. No one can make you feel upset unless you choose to feel upset. This is hard for many people to accept, because it's always easier to blame others for our emotions. He made me angry. She ruined my day. But the truth is, no one can do that. unless you allow them to. When someone unfairly criticizes or mocks you, what are they really doing? They're revealing something about themselves, not about you. People who often criticize or put others down are usually dealing with their own insecurities or frustrations. Rather than confronting their own shortcomings, they project them onto others. Understanding this truth can transform how you respond to negativity. Let me give you an example. You're at work, and a colleague openly criticizes your presentation. Your first reaction might be confusion, followed by anger. You might think, "Why is this person attacking me?" But if you take a moment to calm down, you might realize that this criticism has nothing to do with you. Perhaps they are feeling insecure because their own work isn't being recognized, and temporarily putting you down makes them feel better. Or maybe they simply lack the communication skills to provide constructive feedback. Remember, their behavior reflects them, not you. This is when your emotional immunity truly comes into play. Instead of letting emotions take over and escalating the situation, you choose to stay calm. You recognize that their words cannot determine your value or the quality of your work. You decide not to take offense because you understand that this is their issue, not yours. But this doesn't mean you should never defend yourself or address the issue when necessary. Emotional immunity is different from passivity. It's an active and strategic way of responding. Instead of getting angry or defensive, you respond with clarity and confidence. You could simply say, "Thank you for your feedback. I'll consider that." Stay calm, act professionally, and don't let your emotions control you. Most importantly, never give anyone the power to control your mood. One reason why many people are so vulnerable is that they set unrealistic expectations about how others should treat them. They think people should always be kind, fair, and respectful. But the truth is, that's not always the case. People are imperfect. They have bad days, they make mistakes, and sometimes they are simply rude. When you expect perfection from others, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and frustration. But if you accept that people will sometimes get things wrong, say or do things that hurt you, you won't be easily shaken. You develop mental flexibility, which helps you adapt to any situation. Rather than letting small issues knock you down, you learn how to move past them. This flexibility helps you maintain your spirit in any circumstance. Emotional immunity also involves knowing how to distinguish between constructive criticism and destructive criticism. Not all negative feedback is bad. In fact, some feedback can be incredibly valuable, but you need to have the ability to discern. Constructive criticism comes from those who genuinely want you to grow, even though it might make you uncomfortable at times. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, is meant to hurt you, often stemming from jealousy, insecurity, or malice. When receiving feedback, ask yourself, does this help me improve? If yes, embrace it and learn from it. If not, let it go. Don't let unnecessary negativity steal your energy. Emotional immunity isn't an innate ability. It requires practice. No one is born naturally immune to negativity. Just like your physical immune system, it gets stronger through challenges, difficulties, and the wounds you endure. Every time you choose not to react impulsively, you're building mental resilience. Over time, staying calm during hardships will become your instinct. There are two useful techniques to help you train this ability. Reframing is a technique that changes your perspective to control your emotional response. For example, if someone bumps into you on the street, instead of getting angry and thinking, "How rude," try thinking, "Maybe he's rushing to the hospital to see a loved one." The key here is not whether this is true, but that you're taking control of how you respond. Mindfulness is also a crucial technique. When practicing mindfulness, you observe your emotions without getting caught up in them. Like clouds drifting across the sky, emotions come and go, but they don't define you. Finally, the greatest enemy of emotional immunity is the ego. The ego always wants to be praised, always wants to be right, And when it doesn't get what it wants, it becomes vulnerable. The more you indulge the ego, the more intensely you'll react to criticism. Letting go of the ego doesn't mean losing yourself. It means learning how to shift your focus away from yourself. When you stop worrying so much about getting recognition, you become less susceptible to harm. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more valuable lessons on mindset and personal development. Remember, building emotional immunity isn't a destination, but a journey. Every day, taking one small step forward, you'll become stronger, more resilient, and calmer in the face of any storm. See you in the next video, where we'll continue to uncover the secrets to living a fuller and more meaningful life.